All right, it's still Daybreak Extra on Trust TV. And, we just finished discussing a whole lot about parenting. And right about now, we're going to move into some entertainment. Yes, and right here in the studio, we have an actor and a filmmaker in the studio with us. And he is Doherty Yashim Luka. He's here with us, and we will be interviewing him, everything necessary that needs to be said, on filmmaking and also, acting. Good morning and welcome to Daybreak Extra.
Good morning.
So, you describe yourself as a filmmaker. Yes.
Yes.
So what does that entail?
The whole 9 yards. From acting to producing to directing, post-production, of course, which involves editing, color grading, coloring, sound mix, sound score, everything that has to do with the total process of filmmaking.
So I have to ask this question. Have you ever written, directed, produced, and acted in the same movie?
No. Okay, so here's the thing. I believe in delegation.
Yeah, okay.
Basically. So I cannot be in almost like 15 places at the same time. But of course, I've got a couple of colleagues who does that. I know a fantastic filmmaker that does that. He writes, he produces, he edits, he scores his stories, his films, he directs, he finances his projects. We call such people oracles.
Okay.
And they're able to do it well?
Like I said, one of the finest filmmakers I've ever met.
Okay, so tell us a little about your projects, the ones that you've done and the ones that you're still working on.
Okay, so one of the recent ones is on air. It's showing right now.
Okay.
That's Odogu. I did this one sometime last year.
Oh wow.
Probably I think the second quarter of last year, which of course is going to be filmed. It's going to premiere sometime towards the end of this month. Of course, we're almost approaching the end of this month. It's directed by one of the finest director that I know in the industry, Edward Uka, who happens to be my childhood friend and also a colleague. So, yeah, and then sometimes towards the end of last year, I decided to take the bull by the horn, and then I went into producing. So I produced my first executive produced project, which is called World Without Women.
Oh wow. What's it about?
How we survive without you people. Okay, so essentially it's a story
How
that
important women are.
Yeah. What do you think will be the life of a man
Without a woman.
without a woman?
Are you thinking?
I'm sure. The title alone,
Yes.
just goes to sell itself. Because everybody is curious. Everybody can wait. The anticipation is really very, very high right now. We're hoping to start airing from February next month. Yeah. So that's it. And then we are working towards. It's a new year, so we are working towards a couple of projects. Yeah. By the grace of God, this year I'll be doing my first premiere film. That will go into the cinemas because the ones I did before are film for TV. Because as you all know, we have categories for filmmaking and all that, and it's distribution and sales outlets.
So the thing is, a lot of people, or people like us that are looking at industry from the outside, actually see a situation whereby, let's talk about movies now. Usually our movies go direct to DVD. you might say. We hardly have premieres. We don't go to cinema because you see when movies are released, they have a long cinema run. That's where the money comes in, and then it goes to DVD. So how does this affect the the bottom line at the end of the day? And going straight to DVD and not having a cinema run time.
Well, I mean, this category of distribution and sales was happening when the cinema culture was not really as it is right now, like what we have right now in Nigeria. I mean, but because of the emergence of cinema houses like the Film One Distribution Limited, the moment they came in, I mean, with the introduction of Film One, I mean, it birthed the culture of cinema, you know. And then, but before then, I mean, a lot of filmmakers, I mean, are used to that producing, and then you take it to Up Iweka Road, the Up Iweka Road marketers, exactly. You know. Of course, I mean, kudos to them because I mean they helped with a lot of distribution network. I mean, like the proverbial saying that says, I mean, put an Igbo man in an island, he will convert it to a profitable town, you know. But then, I mean, with the emergence of cinema, it brought about the different categories to distribution and sales, which of course it keeps expanding by the day. Do you understand? Beyond the cinema rounds, we now have terrestrial TV, which of course we call film for TV, where you just produce and then you take to them, and then of course they churn out contents to the general public. And then we also have the online market, which of course is the VODs, you know, video on demand network, you know, and all that. And then we now have most recently we have the channel for airlines.
Okay.
Yeah, it's called in-flight. Yeah, the in-flight channel.
Tell us a bit about that.
Okay, so the in-flight platform is where your content are being premiered, have been shown on mostly international airlines.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Okay.
So of course it's also a channel where filmmakers sell their content.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the airlines actually subscribe to the
through their agents.
Okay.
Yeah, through their agents. Now you see, for example, Rock TV. Rock TV buys your content, and of course they will tell you in the negotiation process. They will tell you both for TV and online.
Okay.
Now the process of that online it also entails all the paraphernalias of online, and then for TV, and then it of course it takes care of both the TV and then the in-flights. You understand? However they distribute, I mean, as an indie filmmaker like myself, I mean, it's not my business. I mean, I just go ahead and just produce and give to them, you know, or sell to them, you know. So I mean, but then again, there are lots of channels right now. I mean, for even for VODs, we now have what do you call them now? Amazon.
Okay.
Amazon is in Nigeria right now. So it's a good competition for us with Netflix. Okay. I mean, you know, and then very soon too, Hono is coming.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Hono is coming. I mean, they're coming to Nigeria as well. I mean, because of course, Nollywood is the biggest market for the African continent.
Okay, now talking about Nollywood, a lot of people seem to have an issue with their content. What is your take, you know, about, because, you know, in most cases, you know, an issue comes up today and tomorrow, you know, Nollywood has already acted, you know, on it and the movie is out selling. They don't take time to actually build their content and do, you know, the research or the necessary things they need to do.
Okay, for that, I mean, like I tell anybody that cares to listen, most especially times when we go into arguments about how our content lacks lacks the value, is the industry is growing. It's a process of growth. We're going through the process of growth. Before now, we hardly tell human angle stories. We hardly tell human angle stories. But right now, you go on TV, on Iroko or Rock or African Magic, and then you get to see very fine stories. For some filmmakers, their strength is on storytelling. So you see the content well researched, at least considerably. While for some filmmakers, their strength is on production value. They just want to get the picture and the audio right.
The aesthetics.
The aesthetics. You understand? So it's everybody with his or her own way of expressing his or herself. You see very beautiful picture and lacks good story. You see very good story and it's poorly done. You understand? But in all of this, I still tell people it is a process. Hollywood today, that is supposedly our standard, what we pick from, they are still not getting it right. There are a couple of content of theirs that still lacks good value. Do you understand? There are still some of their stories that when you watch and you'll be wondering, where is this story going to? Do you understand? In fact, I dare say today that Hollywood they are done with their stories, and that's why even when you watch their sci-fi movies, I mean, you just see things
being
going all over the places, and then you can't place your hand on something you got from the film. You understand? So it's just a process.
You made mention of something earlier of you being an indie filmmaker. You understand? And this just touches on something that I actually wanted to talk about. Maybe it's because of the obsession with blockbusters. You understand? That's why we have all this regurgitated content and whatnot. But really, what you're talking about is telling human angle stories that actually make sense. That is for indie filmmakers like you, because I think that is the main focus of an indie filmmaker, yeah?
Well, I mean, it's not necessarily the focus of indie filmmakers. I mean, for human angle stories, as an indie filmmaker who probably do not have access to the right funding, you just want to cut. Of course,
exactly.
You just want to minimize
a small budget.
Your budget, and then work with the limited budget that you have. But for an established production company such as Inblocks or what's this more about this Ebony Life. I mean, you can see her story. You can see the direction of her stories. Why? Because there are budgets for it. I mean, they run in millions of naira. Sometimes they even run in hundreds of millions of naira. But then again, for us as indie filmmakers, because we're building the structure, we're building the process, we're building our portfolios. It's important that you streamline your budget to stories that are not going to be cumbersome.
Exactly.
Do you understand? So it helps you at the end of the day to get something in return in terms of ROI.
I'm actually talking about this and making this point because I love indie movies. I love indie movies because they're down to earth. You understand, because of what you just talked about, limited budget and whatnot, but they're down because you can see the passion in it. You understand? You're a passionate person, so you actually pour that passion into
whatever
it is you're doing. So that's why I love indie movies, because they actually touch the core of whatever it is they're trying to. They get straight to the point. No huge explosions, CGI, everybody jumping up and down. You understand?
Not fun.
You understand? So do you think right now maybe us Nigerian movie makers, as an industry, we should focus more on the indie part of filmmaking, rather than saying, okay, fine, we're going to, we need to catch up with what Hollywood is doing. We need to start jumping up and down and using all the CGI and whatnot. What do you think we should concentrate on the indie component?
Well, for me, I mean, it's fair to say that for now we should concentrate on indie filmmaking. I, for one, I mean, as an indie filmmaker, I've got 2 stories to tell that, of course, they are going to the cinemas this year, hopefully by the grace of God. I just hope I get the right sponsors. I'm telling a story on Dembe. It's a traditional story. It's a traditional story. It's a cultural story. It's a northern tale on how we see or relate with our culture. Now, Dembe is the traditional wrestling bout that we practice in the north. Now, I want to tell that story. I mean, a lot of people have not seen and appreciated that sport. That's why I'm going into it. My team and I are doing research on it right now. I mean, and we're taking our time because now we're careful. We don't want to date the story, because once it's dated, definitely we'll lose out on some elements. Do you understand? We just want to tell the whole world about how rich the northern culture is. And then secondly, there's this place I grew up in, close to where I grew up in Kaduna State, called Sabo. Now, they have a place, a community called Black Street. Now, I'm passionate about the project. And in fact, that is even the title of the project, Black Street. Now, Black Street, I mean, is a community where they lack the right parenting. I mean, your guest that just left was talking about parenting, and he gave me some insight about the story itself. Do you understand? How parents abandon their kids, how parents don't even have time for their kids, and then the kids are left to be on the street, to learn on the street. Now, how does these experiences affect your life as a growing teenager, even up to when you become an adult? Now, if you would agree with me that that's a human angle story, a story that connects or resonates with every one of us. Do you understand? I mean, you go into that Black Street, and then you see all manner of vices. I want to tell that story. You understand? Now, I don't need so much of research. I don't need to read any book or go online. No, it's what I see on a daily basis. So I just go into that street and just sit down and observe. And then I take notes. Do you understand? So it's easier that way. I mean, you can relate with that. The audience, once the project comes out, the audience, as they are watching it, they could relate with that. And that's why Funke Akindele's project made a huge success at the cinema. The Ghetto, Elmo Ghetto. That was why it made so much success at the cinema.
So this just still boils down to the fact that we need to really concentrate on the indie component of our filmmaking.
If you ask me, yes.
Okay.
Because that way we can easily connect with the story. We can easily get the facts right. You know.
Okay, now earlier on we've actually spoken a lot about some movies who have no business being in the market, being there and all that. Now, don't you think the Video Censors Board or other regulatory bodies, have a role to play in this? What movies actually go out there?
Yeah. Okay, first and foremost, I mean, the Video Censors Board, I mean, what are their functions primarily? It's just to checkmate and classify movies. Checkmate what goes on air, what kind of content goes on air. I mean, just so we have this moral, cultural, right-thinking society. Because, of course, no matter how much we want to copy
The Western world.
The Western world, Nigeria still remains a culturally valued-based country. You know, so the Video Film Censors Board are saddled with the sole responsibility of checkmating some of these things and then classifying the content that we churn out as filmmakers. You know, and then of course, most especially as an indie filmmakers, as an indie filmmaker, you invest, let's say, between 3 and 5 million to do a project, hoping to make some money, and then the National Film Video Censors Board will not tell you, go back and do this right, go back and do this right, go and remove this scene. It is too explicit. Go back. It exposes a lot of nudity, and then the cost of deploying the crew and the cast and equipment, most especially when you don't have equipment, back on set, is almost the same cost of doing the entire film. You know, so a lot of filmmakers try to stay in that space. What is it I'm not supposed to show? Nudity, okay, no nudity, and that's why I tell anybody that cares to listen that. That's why I tell anybody that cares to listen that our romantic scenes, our sex and romantic scenes in Nollywood are still what? Are we saying that women still go to bed with their bra on? No.
Okay, I think with that, we will be wrapping up the show entirely. Time is definitely not on our side, but thank you so much, Dorothy Yashim Luka, for gracing us with your presence on a Daybreak Extra. Hopefully, we'll have you next time on the show.
Thank you very much. And thanks for having me.
Yes, definitely. All right. So I remain Darshan Hussaina Usman, and we'll be back again next week on Trust TV. Thank you so much for watching.
Well, we'll do Daybreak Extra again next week, Saturday. I'm Ibrahim Yusuf. Thanks for staying with us.